Number 2. Disturbing camping encounter. Background: I work summers as a camp counselor in the northern parts of Ontario, Canada. On the date this particular incident occurred, I was camping with a group of 10-year-old boys on the same lake the summer camp was based on. So, like a routine camping trip, we canoe out to the site and set up our tents. Me and my co-counselor, Mike, take turns supervising the kids while they swim, build forts and play games, etc. We cook some food over the fire, sit around and tell stories, cook s'mores, the typical Canadian camping experience. Around 9:30ish, I tell the kids it's time for bed and they head into their tents, which were positioned a small walk away from the shoreline but still in the line of sight from where we had the fire pit. So the kids have gone to bed and me and Mike are shooting the shit by the water, smoking a cigarette. Just basically hanging out before we decide to head into our tent and call it a night. What happened next still troubles me to this day and remains my go-to scary campfire story. We were both gazing into the pitch black night water when we saw a small light approaching us slowly and slightly above water level. We speculated what it could possibly be for a few minutes before it came close enough for us to see that it was mounted on the front of a kayak and that someone was approaching our campsite. Now, it is important to note that as a camp counselor, part of our training goes over how to deal with stranger encounters in an environment where we are responsible for a group of children on public property. I was prepared to give the mystery peddler the typical speech about how we are camping with a group from a recognized organization and we would respectfully ask that they find another campsite. However, this person's appearance shook me to the bone as the light drew nearer. Paddling this kayak was a woman who looked to be in her 60s. She had incredibly long wisps of grey hair that was trailing in the water. Her skin looked like an old leather, and her dead-looking eyes were tough to spot under all her wrinkles. She looked directly at me, and when she spoke, I realized she was missing most of her teeth. "Are all your children safe in bed?" she asked me, pointing in the direction of the tents. Not really knowing how to respond and quite frankly shitting myself, I responded by telling her that they were fine and she had to leave. "That's good, just as expected for this time," she said with a smile, then turned her kayak and paddled off into the night. At this point in time, myself and Mike were legitimately very creeped out, not only by the appearance of this mystery woman who resembled a freaking corpse, but also her inquiry of the whereabouts and safety of the kids we had brought on this trip. Not knowing what else to do, we grabbed our hunting knives and sat by the fire after checking on the kids. Half an hour later is where shit started to get really creepy. Across the lake, a female counselor was leading another trip for kids the same age group. She sent me a text which read something along the lines of, "Hey Sean, stop screwing with us. This isn't funny, my kids are really creeped out." I instantly called her and let her know I had just seen someone near my campsite that seemed eerie and that I was not trying to play a joke. Apparently, one of their kids had opened their tent door to take a piss and seen a woman with long hair standing with her arms opened towards them near the shoreline. Number 1. Incredibly bizarre and creepy encounter at train station. While this was now almost 16 years ago, I still remember every single detail about this encounter quite vividly. It was so random and so distinctly bizarre that I will never forget just what happened. I'm sorry it's so long. Background: I'm 20 years old at the time, and after visiting friends in college for the weekend, found myself traveling alone home and taking a late train from Boston out to the suburbs where my car is parked. I'm running late and I'm very concerned that I'm going to miss the last subway out of Boston. but gracefully the train I needed pulled up quickly. I remember being annoyed at myself for creating stress with such an unnecessarily close call, as I was definitely on either the very last or next to last train out of Boston. And while I have friends I could stay with if I miss the last train, I have to work in the morning and my phone is completely dead. The ride is long and slow, and there is hardly a soul on the train after we leave the immediate Boston area, which isn't odd seeing how it's Sunday and after midnight. Halfway through the 45-minute ride, I doze off and jerk awake at hearing the blaring Brain 3 announcement, which is my stop. In my foggy state, I grab my bag and jump off the train, and the moment I realize I'm at the wrong stop, the doors close. Turns out they were just announcing the train destination, not train stop. As you can imagine, I'm feeling pretty lousy about this, watching the train plod off in the direction I needed to be going. I'm the only person to get off the train, and the station is unfamiliar and utterly deserted. Quickly I realize I'm in Quincy, 3 long stops away from my destination, and I'm feeling screwed. I really need there to be another train. I look around and realize I'm close to the end of a desolated and strikingly dark outdoor train platform. While the chances for there being another train so late is extremely thin, it's my only hope, and I begin to feel panicked, stupid and vulnerable. After a minute or two of standing there dumbfounded and triple checking that my phone was dead, I suddenly spot a man standing alone under a light, a distance down the long and thin platform. A little ways further beyond him appears to be the only entrance/exit, unless there are some stairs going down into the terminal hallway down that I can't see. While the man makes me a little nervous, he's clearly facing the tracks, which gives me hope that one last train is on the way. Thinking that maybe he just missed the one I got off, I decide to just quietly sit on the bench close by and choose to stay unnoticed and in the dark while I wait. The bench is partially enclosed, and when I sit down on it, I'm basically obscured from the shoulders down by deep shadows and can still see in every direction but directly behind me. A quick glance around it though confirms I'm definitely alone down here. So on the dark bench I sit and wait and feel comfortably obscured. With me wearing dark clothes and it being so dark on my end of the station, I have the opportunity to rather blatantly watch the man at the end of the platform. The well-lit man is tall, thin, not old, like 30s, light, slightly shaggy hair and dressed casually preppy. He is strange though, standing abnormally still, looking straight ahead in a weird way. Something is off, but he's minding his business and probably doesn't even know I'm here. And while I feel really uneasy, I do find some slight comfort in being certain that no one is down here with me and can openly watch the only other person from my dark hidden bench. After watching for a few minutes, the man begins to rock a little, placing weight on one foot and then another. He then takes a few slow steps towards the edge of the platform, and I notice that he's using a white and red walking cane for the visually impaired, and tapping and feeling his way as he walked forward. Suddenly, I'm very relieved, as this may explain his unusual posture. Just as I'm feeling more relaxed, the feeling vanishes. He's still walking towards the platform edge, and quickly, I stiffen and sit up straight, looking intently. He makes it to the bright yellow, raised metal warning tread that is at the very edge of the platform, only a foot wide, and directly before an 8-foot drop onto electrified train tracks. He stops there, banging his cane against the edge, toes literally at the furthest point. I stand up and walk a few paces closer as he starts to sway again, but more dramatically. My mind begins to race. What's going on? Is this a suicide situation? He is in a lot of danger. I want to take action and try quickly to figure out the best way because this poor man needs help of some kind. I'm just trying to figure out how to approach him because I really don't want to startle him with his being so very close to the edge. In fact, he's the furthest you can go and his swaying has evolved to a kind of dance. Suddenly, after what seems like ages, but is probably just a minute or two, he stops and begins to take slow steps backwards, until finally he returns to standing still and staring straight ahead, back under the spotlight. With my heart racing and mind spinning, I return to my dark bench, sit back down quietly and try to process what's suddenly happening. I want to help this man, but I'm being overwhelmed by alarms in my brain. I keep watching and being as silent as possible. He stands calmly for a few minutes under the light, facing the tracks and safely several paces away from the edge. I decide to get help. I mean, he just did something crazy, really unnerving and really dangerous, and I don't know what his intentions are. I'm still sitting on my dark bench, fighting off conflicting feelings and secretly watching him, when he suddenly turns his whole body to directly face me. Straight on facing me, exactly the angle to where I am sitting, and he's smiling. He's far away, but so well lit, I can tell he is absolutely smiling and looking suddenly right at me. I'm completely startled and my jaw drops. My mind is now racing like crazy. He knows I'm here? He must know I'm here. But what if he knows I'm here? Why is he facing me? He knows exactly where I'm sitting? What? Is he actually blind? But I'm sitting in the dark and not making a sound. He's smiling. I freeze solid. What happens next is so sudden that I remain basically frozen like a statue, sitting on the dark bench the entire time, not making even the slightest sound. Suddenly, still smiling, he turns and faces the train tracks, and again, using his cane, walks right over to the very edge and begins his side-to-side swaying, except now it's even more dance-like. He then changes position, putting one foot right on the edge and one foot behind him, and starts this exaggerated lunging motion, as one would jump in front of a train, nearly jumping off the platform, but catching himself before he does. He does this repeatedly. All the while, I'm just watching from a distance, basically in, well, horror and confusion. Suddenly, he stops all this and turns. This time he doesn't face me, but faces in my general direction, my end of the tracks, smiling still from what I can see. He slowly begins to walk down the platform towards me. He is walking right on the edge, directly on the warning track the whole time. I can hear the clack of the cane going side to side. He is so close to the edge that the cane is going into the darkness. He gets closer and closer and I can do absolutely nothing but stare. How could he be walking so close to the edge? Why is he coming down here? Closer and closer he gets and I can now see him better. Still the big gaping grin on his face, empty and particle like a game show host. And his eyes, they're slammed shut. They aren't gently closed. They are aggressively and exaggeratedly closed, very tight. I know though that it's possible to peer a little bit when making this face. My mind is exploding and I remain frozen solid. He is now so close, about 20 feet away. I am thinking that if I hang on just one more minute, maybe he will walk right by me. And with him out of the way of the entrance, I can run and go get help. And maybe, just maybe, his facing me smiling was just a coincidence. Maybe this whole time he has no idea I'm even here. Maybe he really is blind. But greatly to my dismay, only about 15 feet before he reaches me, he stops and he turns and faces me, eyes still slammed shut, gaping smile. He is now standing there on the edge of the platform facing me. His eyes are tightly shut and he is facing right at me. This can't be possible, and I feel like I'm in a surreal nightmare, and then suddenly it gets much worse. He starts making this weird, high-pitched whimpering, moaning, feminine soft laugh. He reaches for the zipper on his pants and unzips them while holding his cane. He pulls down his pants and underwear, exposing his penis, and then, while still facing me, starts jumping up and down, all the while continuing to do that soft coy laugh. He then changes position and starts doing that jumping from foot to foot lunging motion, like he's about to jump into the path of a train, except now his movement compromised by his pulled down pants. He continues this smiling, eyes shut, pennies flopping around this way and that, and making that simpering laugh, all the while I'm sitting there in some kind of mesmerized horror state. Suddenly, I hear the train rattling loud and approaching fast. In frozen horror, I'm both groveling in thanks to God and terrified that at the end of all this true insanity, I am about to see someone commit suicide right in front of me or accidentally get hit by the train. Right as the train reached the platform and started slowing down, he returns to simply swaying again and takes a step back. Being the very last train of the night, every car seems to have some people on it. I knew immediately it was probably safe. The train stops and I sprint like hell down the platform, a few cars distance down, and jump on. I don't know if he gets on the train too or just stands there, but I definitely don't hear anyone yelling or anything, so I assume that he pulled up his pants either way. And so, once on the train, I sink into the seat, my mind thoroughly blown. My mind explodes in every single variation of the feeling that can basically be eloquently summed up as one giant what the fuck. Gratefully, at the end of all that, I really do feel immediately safe, and I'm not further subjected to worrying about him following me off the train, if he even got on, because there's always other people getting off and brain-free. It was all just quite simply so odd and bizarre that I felt like after all these years sharing it, it's easily the closest thing to a nightmare I've ever experienced. It was so weird, scary, surreal, and happened so quickly that it was almost like I coasted cleanly by being scarred and just settled into a kind of hypnosis and unable to move. I'm not trying to be dramatic about it, I just don't know how else to describe it. Honestly, when I got on the train, I was just sitting there a bit tweaked, wide-eyed, and really honestly laughing in my head at the sheer shock of it all. The immense feeling of relief I felt when I boarded that train quickly changed any feelings of horror to that of shock, disbelief, and gratitude.